I think the hardest part of plein air painting isn't the actual act of painting outside. I think it's just being outside with a sketchbook, knowing it might draw attention to you and then making us feel like we need to be good. As an introvert, it's not an easy thing to put yourself out there. It's definitely safer to stay at home, but the experience of drawing and painting plein air just can't be replicated inside. If you can, I highly recommend giving it a go, even just in your garden, because we learn so much from creating on location. Welcome back to my mini plein air series. If you're new around here, my name is Katie. I'm a full-time sketchbook artist. I use a lot of mixed media, and I'm also an introvert. You can find episode 1, an introduction to plein air painting, linked up here in the cards and down below in the description if you would like a bit more of the practical answers as to what to take with you and what to pack. This is episode 2, how to paint plein air as an introvert, where I'll cover things like where to sit, practical strategies, the realities of drawing in a public space, and a bit about how to choose what to draw too. So I asked on Instagram what people struggle with most when it comes to drawing outdoors. A lot of the answers were about feeling awkward. I worry people are watching me. I feel nervous when people walk by. I feel like only good artists deserve to be out there doing it. It showed me that this feeling is a lot more common than people admit. I've had my YouTube channel for a while, so I have shared some plein air painting videos before, and you wouldn't know about the anxiety because I didn't share it in the videos. I'm often in my head, but it's the getting there, actually getting your sketchbook out and your tools out to draw, that I find to be the hardest part. Although these feelings do still happen, I used to be much more self-conscious drawing outside. I think when you're sitting somewhere sketching, it can feel like you're suddenly very, very visible, like everybody's looking at you. But the thing I found is that most people barely notice. And it's that age-old thing of, practice being the most important part to building our confidence and realizing you're the most important person in your life, not to theirs. But I think practice is important art-wise, but also socially too. It's the practice that has taught me that nobody really is looking. They might glance over for a second, maybe they'll even come up to you and comment, but that's all it is. A fleeting moment of curiosity that they want to see what you might be doing, and then they continue with their day. And if somebody does stop to look, that doesn't automatically mean they're judging you. I think we often interpret being perceived as being evaluated. Like we feel like what we have on our page has to be good enough to justify the fact that we are there. So one of the messages that I mentioned earlier, was I worry people will think only good artists deserve to be out there drawing. There is something very, very vulnerable about drawing in public before you're confident. I don't actually see many people talk about this, so I think it's an important conversation to have. It's really tough when the drawing isn't finished or it's just not going well. A lot of my art doesn't look good until the end. It's why my creative mantra is always to trust the process, because it will come together. But of course you can't always explain that if someone sees it in its ugly phase. And because those doubts creep in more often if it's not looking how you hoped, they become louder. You worry someone might come up at the worst kind of point and that they might judge you. But even if they do, that is on them and not you. Being outside drawing isn't a reward that you earn once you become good. I am saying these words in inverted commas, but it's part of how you improve. Nobody starts out making amazing plein air work. There is always learning and growth to be found. Of course, early sketches and being out of your comfort zone will be tricky. It might create drawings that feel overwhelming and unfinished. And the truth is that I don't often like the work I make plein air. It's not as comfortable as creating at home because you're more limited by materials, by the weather, by the view. But it's these challenges that are what make me a better artist. And I think I said this in the first video too. I may not like the art, but I love the process and the experience. I remember things better when painting outside, and there's an amazing connection that happens between being on location and the work in my sketchbook. It's normal to feel anxious and awkward. So here are some practical tips that I found have really helped. The first is, you don't need to force yourself into a really busy place. I've drawn on a high street before with lots and lots of people, and I've drawn in a museum surrounded by many crowds. But you don't have to sketch in the middle of a crowded place to properly do plein air. I am a nature artist, so of course that helps me because I want to paint the more rural views. You'll often find me sat in a field painting rather than a busy town square, but of course that has its place, and I do want to explore more urban sketching this year. I usually look for places where I feel slightly tucked away. I'll purposefully visit in the mornings or quiet times where I know it won't be as busy. It's totally okay to choose a location and a time based on that. It's about making things comfortable for us while still pushing out of our comfort zone and painting plein air. Another tip that I think is really important, and something I do all of the time when outside and drawing on location, is to choose a spot that isn't open behind you. So near a tree, against a wall, at the edge of a space. It means that if I am being approached, I can see them coming. If you really don't want to show your work, you have every right to close your sketchbook. I also keep my drawing sessions fairly short. I do find that when I'm creating, I go into my own world. I think this has come from practice too, but it's the act of opening that sketchbook that is the hardest. But once I've put my first few marks down on the page, I'm transported away and nothing else matters. Nothing else is going on in the world whilst I'm painting. I am mindful of the strokes I'm making, the colour I'm putting onto the page. But if you are feeling very overwhelmed, keep things short. Sometimes sketching for 10 or 20 minutes is enough, and you can build that up slowly too. I think introverted people often assume they need to become super confident and outgoing to do this, but I think it's more about building familiarity, getting used to it. A lot of people also asked how I deal with people coming up to talk to me, so let's circle back to that. Now, I don't know if it's because I choose, landscape-heavy places, walking paths, National Trust properties, open gardens, but I can count on one hand the amount of times someone has come up to me. Perhaps that's an English thing, I don't know, but people keep themselves to themselves generally. More often I'll get dogs that are awfully coming up to see what I'm up to, which is always welcome. But not many people come up to me. They might want to peek over my shoulder, and they can't do that because I'm sat against a wall, but really they do leave me to it. And when I have had interactions, they're very brief. They're already there on their day out, they're not here just to watch you. You can decide if you want to keep on painting whilst they're there, and they might want to watch your process, but you can choose not to. Usually people are just curious, and if I really don't feel like talking, I'll just smile and answer quickly, and that's that. They tend to get the hint. You do not owe strangers a performance, and you're allowed to quietly exist and make art without needing to entertain them. You have every right to be there and do what you want to do. Another practical tip here is to take a friend. That always helps me. I feel way more confident when I have my husband at my side and I'm getting my sketchbook out. I think people tend not to approach then. There is definitely a confidence in numbers. But I also know that it can have its own issues. Your companion may not want to wait long. They're not creative or artistic. You could have kids in tow. You might want to stop and draw and they don't want to. So that has its own challenges, but there has to be some compromise, I think. Whether it's a fast colour study or just a quick doodle that you can do on location and write notes on, to then work back into or do another piece back at home. Remember, we don't need to create big or grand and time-intensive art on these plein air sessions. My husband has so much patience, so I'm incredibly lucky I can just draw alongside him and he's happy to wait. He might just people watch, or he'll bring a book with him, or we'll simply chat and have a conversation as I paint. There are a lot of plein air groups as well, so take a look in your city. There's a lot of USK, urban sketcher groups, that you might want to tag along to and try your hand because they're all there for the same thing, so you definitely won't feel out of place with them. Okay, so I also think part of the anxiety comes from not knowing what to focus on. When you first start drawing outside, everything is screaming out to draw it. There's too much information, too many details, too many possible subjects. One thing that helped me a lot was realising I don't actually have to draw the whole scene. I can crop things, I can zoom in, I can focus on the tiniest wildflower within a huge field. I'm just looking for one small moment that I like, and that's it. I'm going to put some photos on screen so you can see an example of how I might crop it. It makes a big, overwhelming view become much easier to approach and draw. Viewfinders are really great for this, or just doing L shapes with your thumb and forefinger and cropping the view that way. Sometimes the best drawings and my favourite pieces are just one corner of a garden, one tree, a specific flower bed. Drawing a full scene can be too much. There's too much expectation and it'll take too much time when we're outside sometimes. I don't think the goal is to become someone who never feels awkward. I still feel self-conscious drawing outside, but like I said earlier, eventually your attention shifts. I don't think about myself, I just think about the art. This happens in the studio too, but I'm not thinking about being perceived or observed there. But when I'm outside, I start paying attention to the light, the shapes, the colours, the atmosphere, not on the people around me or how I might look to them. and that's when I can really start to enjoy my plein air art. In the next episode, I want to get more into simplification, perhaps more of a painting walkthrough, but let me know if you have any questions or ideas for that one. I really hope you enjoyed watching this one and you found it helpful. I'd love to chat with you about it in the comments and hear your thoughts. A big thank you to my patrons. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to create these free videos here on YouTube, so a shout out to them. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next Sunday in my new YouTube video. See you later!